The moment the school beauty was cornered by thugs in the alley, her childhood friend rushed over without a second thought. I couldn't bear to watch him get beaten up by the thugs, so I stepped in front of him, but he grabbed the school beauty and ran away. That day, I was beaten half to death by the enraged thugs, missed the college entrance exam, and became a laughingstock to everyone later, under pressure from both families. My childhood friend chose to be with me, but he resented me for costing him his true love, so he set the villa on fire, taking us both down with him. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn to the day the school beauty was cornered. Watching my childhood friend's back as he charged forward without hesitation, I ran in the opposite direction even faster than him. Help, someone, is anyone there, help me. In a daze, someone grabbed me by the arm as I sprinted. That's Jiang Luolua's voice. Song Yunin, come with me to see what's wrong with her. Opening my eyes to the familiar alley, I was startled to realize that I had been reborn, so I shook off Su Qingye's hand. I'm not going. I still have a lot of homework to do. I'm going home. Su Qingye looked at me in shock, his eyes full of disgust. Song Yunin, Jiang Luoluo is our classmate. Why are you so cold-blooded? I didn't answer anymore and turned around to run. Su Qingye, this time, I won't stop you from dying for her. When I got home, my parents had already had the servants prepare an exquisite dinner. I absent-mindedly picked at my food until my chopsticks slipped and fell to the floor. My mother gently touched my forehead and asked with concern, "Sweetie, are you feeling unwell?" I shook my head, but tears couldn't help streaming down. Mom, I don't like Su Qingye anymore. Can the engagement be called off? You bastard. Across from me, my father slammed the table in anger, stood up, rolled up his sleeves, and strode toward the front door. I'm going to the Su family to ask that couple why they let their son bully my daughter. Su Qingye's family had been our neighbors for years and were also business partners with our company. Su Qingye was 3 months older than me, and I had always loved trailing after him since I was little. My mother said that back then, he was adorable and polite, and seeing how much I liked him, both sets of parents arranged an engagement for us. But it wasn't until he abandoned me for Jiang Luoluo, leading to my tragic death, that I realized he was indeed obedient and sensible, so sensible that he never revealed his true feelings. Even when he fell for Jiang Luoluo, he kept it to himself, suppressing his intense love for her and choosing to stay with me, making me believe he was willing to marry me. Now that I know his feelings, I can no longer interfere in his life. Dad opened the front door, and a beam of light streamed in. Under the setting sun, I watched Su Qingye, who should have been beaten half to death, instead emerge unscathed, supporting the pitiful Jiang Luoluo as they walked against the light toward the villa next door. Stop right there. Dad stood at the entrance, shouting angrily at Su Qingye. Have you lost your mind? Who are you holding on to? Let go right now. Yuning is crying at home. You brat. Get in here and comfort her. Hearing this, the Su couple quickly opened their door and stepped outside, looking at my furious father, Su Qingye outside, and the pitiful girl he was supporting. Uncle Su rushed over without a second word and slapped Su Qingye across the face. You're young and already up to no good, learning to flirt. What do you take Yuning for? Seeing Su Qingye get hit, my dad's grim expression softened a little. Su Qingye's mother, Aunt Zhao, immediately rushed over to hold back Uncle Su, who was about to hit him again. That's enough, old Su. Qingye is a good kid, he wouldn't do anything reckless. Why don't you hear him out? Okay. Mom also quickly pulled me over to smooth things over, looking at the girl he was holding up. That's right, old Su. Qingye is grown up now. Hitting him like that will only hurt his pride, won't it? Humph. After hearing what my mom said, Su Qingye let out a disdainful snort and said indignantly, if it weren't for Song Yuning, why would my dad hit me? With that, he pointed at me, his eyes sharp and fierce. Song Yuning, when you see a classmate in danger, all you can think of is running away. Even if my dad beats me to death, I'd rather not be with someone as selfish and cold-blooded as you. Uncle Su's palm landed on Su Qingye's face again with lightning speed. What nonsense are you talking? Apologize to Yuning right now. I'm not talking nonsense, Su Qingye said, covering his face with one hand while tightly holding Jiang Luoluo behind him with the other. Luoluo was cornered by thugs in the alley near the school today. I heard her calling for help and rushed over to save her. And the Song Yuning you all think is the kindest person in the world just ran away like nothing happened. How can I be with someone like that? No matter what, I'm definitely calling off this engagement. And also, Luoluo's parents died in a car accident 2 years ago, leaving her all alone in that slum without even a single surveillance camera. It's way too unsafe. We have so many empty rooms at home, so I plan to have the housekeeper clean one out for her to stay in until after the college entrance exam. It's only 2 months away. Aunt Sue, feeling sorry for her son's reddened face from the slap, questioned me with a harsh tone. Yuning, is Qingye telling the truth? Did you really see a classmate in danger and just run away like a coward? How is that possible? My daughter is definitely not that kind of person. After saying that, Dad turned to look at me, his eyes full of conviction. I did run away. As soon as I finished speaking, Su Qingye immediately pointed a finger at me. You all heard that, right? What more is there to say? I will never marry someone like her. A flicker of disappointment passed through Dad's eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. So what? My daughter's safety is what matters most. Baby, you're right. Never put yourself in danger for someone unimportant. Seeing Dad's unreserved favoritism, I felt a warmth in my heart. Then I pulled out my phone and began to explain. But I didn't just do nothing. Jiang Luolua's voice sounded terrified, and the thug's laughter was chilling. There were too many of them. Even if I had gone, I couldn't have done anything except put myself in danger, so I called the police. About 10 minutes later, the police arrived and found no one there. I had to explain for quite a while. Luckily, Su Qingye and Jiang Luolua were both there, so they came with me to the police station to file a statement. That way, I could prove I didn't make a false report, and also help identify and arrest those thugs who were bullying Jiang Luoluo. Dad patted my head with relief. Brave and resourceful, truly my daughter. I'll have the driver take you to the police station right away. I'm not going. A piercing female voice shattered the silence. Jiang Luoluo crouched down, clutching her head and sobbing bitterly. Su Qingye looked at her with deep concern. Luoluo, what's wrong? Jiang Luoluo lifted her head, gazing pitifully at Su Qingye as a single tear slid down her cheek at just the right moment. If you call the police, everyone in school will know I was bullied by those thugs. How can I face anyone? How can I go to class? I'd rather die. Turning around, Jiang Luoluo put on a sorrowful expression and angrily confronted me. Song Yuning, why did you call the police? Why are you trying to ruin me? In your eyes, does someone as insignificant as me not even deserve to live? I furrowed my brow and pointed at my head. Jiang Luoluo, is there something wrong with you up here? Or are you some newly unearthed antique? What era is this? Instead of thinking about catching the people who hurt you, you're worrying about something so ridiculous. Who would look down on you for that? Suddenly, I felt something was off, so I stared at Jiang Luoluo until a flicker of guilt crossed her face. Turning to look at Su Qingye, who had eyes only for Jiang Luoluo. There were several thugs surrounding Jiang Luoluo. How did you manage to save her and get away unscathed? Su Qingye said disdainfully. A bunch of rabble. I beat them off in no time. I found it utterly unbelievable. How could the vicious thugs who had beaten me so badly in my past life that I lay in the hospital for 3 whole months without moving be as easy to deal with as Su Qingye claimed? And Jiang Luolua's evasive eyes told me that this matter had to be thoroughly investigated by the police this time. Even Su Qingye didn't side with Jiang Luoluo. He kindly advised her to go to the police station with us to cooperate with the investigation, so those thugs could be brought to justice. But Jiang Luoluo remained silent, only shaking her head desperately. When pushed too far, she quickly ran toward the villa, pretending she would dash her head against it and die. Su Qingye immediately rushed over and hugged her. Luoluo, don't be like this. Luoluo, I know you're terrified. I won't push you anymore. Don't worry, I'm here. I won't let anyone bully you. As he said this, Su Qingye shot me a fierce glare, as if I were the villain who had set Jiang Luoluo up. But while they were lost in their sweet moment, I had already called the police again, informing them that the victim who had cried for help in the alley was right here. The police arrived quickly. It wasn't until the police car came to a steady stop at the entrance of the villa complex that Jiang Luoluo was completely dumbfounded. Faced with the police's questioning, Jiang Luoluo dared not lie anymore and tearfully confessed everything. Those thugs were Jiang Luolua's cousin and her cousin's friends. They had blocked off the alley on Jiang Luolua's orders, staging the whole scene just to give Su Qingye a chance to play the hero and save the damsel in distress. Everyone present who learned the truth turned pale. Even Su Qingye's expression was unusually grim. Seeing this, Jiang Luoluo immediately threw herself into Su Qingye's arms. You clearly like me. I like you too, Qingye. I had no choice. I couldn't bear to watch you and Song Yuning stick together every day, seeing you grow closer and closer. I had to resort to this to make you see your own heart. Admit it, Su Qingye. The person you like has never been Song Yuning. You could rush in to save me without caring about your own safety, so why can't you be brave one more time for me? What era is this? Your parents still want an arranged marriage. Aren't they afraid of ruining your lifelong happiness? Woo-woo. Jiang Luoluo was crying like a pear blossom in the rain. Su Qingye clenched and unclenched his fists, then finally hugged Jiang Luoluo tightly, closing his eyes in pain. Song Yuning, stop clinging to me. I didn't say a word and turned around to go back home worried about my state. My parents shot a glare at Su Qingye and followed me inside. My mother slammed the door shut, blocking the Su couple, who wanted to come over and apologize, outside in the end. Since this incident didn't cause any substantial consequences, Jiang Luoluo was only given a verbal reprimand, and the matter was dropped. Everyone can forgive her, but I cannot. I will never forget in my past life, on the day I risked everything to save Su Qingye. She had her thug cousin go for the kill. As long as I hold on to Su Qingye, she will definitely make a move on me again. When that happens, I will gather the evidence, and she must pay for the punishment she owes me from a lifetime ago. Seeing how upset I was, Dad's heart ached so much he almost cried when he saw me looking at him. He quickly forced a faint, bitter smile to comfort me. I couldn't help but let out a snort, breaking into a smile through my tears. Dad, can we pull our company's funds out of the Su family? Dad nodded. Of course, that brat from the Su family doesn't know what's good for him. It's time he learned a lesson, but it'll take a little time. With that, Dad looked at me with concern. Sweetie, do you want to cut ties with the Su family completely, or are you trying to use money to control Su Qingye? Mom also spoke earnestly. Baby, a forced love is never sweet. Su Qingye isn't so outstanding that he's worth all your effort. I hugged them back. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. The next morning, as soon as I arrived at school, I noticed my classmates pointing at me and whispering. Even my deskmate didn't dare to talk to me and quietly slipped a note into my hand. It basically said that I was using my influence to bully Su Qingye into being with me, and that the girl Su Qingye actually liked was Jiang Luoluo. So I had hired some thugs to corner Jiang Luoluo on her way home from school and harass her. Luckily, Su Qingye showed up in time to save Jiang Luoluo, or else things would have been unimaginable. Now, the entire class is ostracizing me. They've all sided with Jiang Luoluo, thinking that if I could bully one person, surely I couldn't bully the whole class. I could figure out who started these rumors with my little finger. In the last row of the classroom, Jiang Luoluo was surrounded by 7 or 8 classmates comforting her. From an angle they couldn't see, Jiang Luoluo looked at me, curling her lips, her eyes full of smugness. Just because I didn't agree to Su Qingye's request to call off the engagement yesterday, she couldn't wait to teach me a lesson. How dare she, in front of everyone? I walked toward Jiang Luoluo. She instantly put away her arrogance, looking pitiful. You Ning, is there something you need from me? I watched her act coldly. Did you spread the rumor that I hired thugs to corner you? Jiang Luoluo shook her head vigorously, then burst into loud sobs. No, it wasn't me. I don't know how the classmates found out. Song Yuning, don't blame me. I'm scared. The next second, a tremendous force from behind violently shoved me away from Jiang Luoluo. Su Qingye glared at me angrily. Song Yuning, I warned you not to bully Jiang Luoluo. She just likes me. She hasn't done anything wrong. Watching Jiang Luoluo throw herself into Su Qingye's arms crying again, I suddenly understood where she got the confidence to spread those rumors. She thought that with Su Qingye as her backing, she could manipulate me at will. How ridiculous. I have a mouth. So I immediately spoke up to explain. Those thugs were hired by Jiang Luoluo herself in a staged act. I don't know them at all. The police came to my house yesterday to take a statement. If you don't believe me, go ask at the police station yourself. But I didn't expect that my classmates would rather trust what their own eyes saw, and no one would bother to verify the real truth. There are only 2 months left until the college entrance exam. Song Yuning, you deliberately said that knowing no one has time to go to the police station. Luoluo is so gentle. She even speaks in a soft voice. How could she possibly know any thugs? As for you, you're lawless and dare to provoke anyone. Isn't bullying Luoluo exactly the kind of thing you would do? I was speechless, so I turned to Su Qingye. Don't you know what happened yesterday? Why don't you explain it to everyone? Su Qingye clearly hadn't expected that what happened yesterday had already spread among the classmates. He looked at Jiang Luoluo with a troubled expression. Jiang Luoluo tugged at his sleeve and pleaded. Qingye, I don't want to recall what happened yesterday. Su Qingye furrowed his brows and tossed out an ambiguous remark. Song Yuning, stop making a scene. Then he turned around and went back to his seat. How could he not know that this was essentially pinning all the blame on me? The class bell rang. The students dispersed. Casting contemptuous glances at me, Su Qingye hung his head, seemingly remorseful for framing me. Seeing this, Jiang Luoluo looked at me provocatively, then suddenly grabbed my hand and slapped herself in the face. Ah! Jiang Luoluo dramatically knocked over the desk, rolled on the ground, and covered her face in pain, tears streaming down. Song Yuning, I just like Qingye. It's not something I can control. Can you please let me go? I'm begging you. Don't hurt me. In an instant, the classmates in the class almost treated me like a vicious villain. Someone gave me a hard push from behind. Then a crowd rushed to Jiang Luoluo and helped him up as he sobbed. Su Qingye looked at me with eyes full of disappointment. Song Yuning, I really misjudged you. Why are you so malicious? The teacher walked into the classroom and saw the chaos. He asked angrily what had happened. Then I was told to go to the homeroom teacher's office with Jiang Luoluo and Su Qingye to explain the situation. On the way, Jiang Luoluo deliberately exposed her red and swollen face to Su Qingye's view. Every time Su Qingye saw it, he would glare at me. I knew he had held back the urge to hit me countless times. Finally, when we were halfway there, he spoke up. Song Yuning, when we get to the teacher's office, just admit that you hired those thugs. After all, they didn't cause any real harm to Luoluo. The teacher won't be too hard on you. Just apologize, and this will be over. I found it utterly unreasonable. Why should I admit to something I didn't do, just because you like Jiang Luoluo? I have to take the blame for her. Su Qingye, you think way too highly of yourself. The moment I finished speaking, Su Qingye suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned around. He yanked Jiang Luoluo in front of me and pointed at her injured face, shouting at me, "Take a good look at yourself. Look at what you've done to her. What if you just take the blame for what happened yesterday? After all, you're a rich heiress. No matter how much your classmates dislike you, they wouldn't dare to bully you. But what about Luoluo? She's so pitiful. How can she endure being isolated and bullied? She's poor, so she can't take it. I'm rich, so I deserve this. What bullshit logic." Seeing that I wouldn't back down, Jiang Luoluo tugged at Su Qingye and started crying again. "Forget it, Qingye. Someone like me, she hits me whenever she wants. How could she ever feel sorry for it, let alone make amends?" As she spoke, she forced a faint smile, looking fragile yet beautiful, but when it reached her cheeks, it hurt so much that tears streamed down. "Oh no, I'm fine, stop pretending." My irritable tone broke the lingering gaze between the two, pointing at the diamond-studded brooch on my clothes. I stared at Jiang Luoluo. "See this? It's a camera. My dad had it custom-made overnight to protect me, afraid I might fall victim to some scheming scumbag. It recorded everything that just happened in the classroom. How you grabbed my hand and slapped it hard against your own face. Jiang Luoluo, I'm done playing along with your act. I'm sending this video to the class group chat right now so everyone can see your performance." I made a move to turn back, but felt someone grab my pant leg from behind. Looking down, Jiang Luoluo had already knelt. Her face was pale. "Song Yuning, please, don't ruin me. You have everything, while I only want Su Qingye." Su Qingye looked at Jiang Luoluo, who was crying bitterly on the ground, and for a moment, he didn't reach out to help her up. "Luoluo, is everything Song Yuning said true? You hit yourself." A flash of shame and anger crossed Jiang Luoluo's face as she lowered her head. Su Qingye let out a self-deprecating laugh, then turned and walked away. Jiang Luoluo finally panicked. She stood up and chased after Su Qingye, grabbing him from behind and hugging him tightly. "Qingye, save me. I'm just afraid that in the end, you'll choose her over me. After all, she's your equal in status, but I'm just an orphan with no parents." As Jiang Luoluo spoke, regret filled her words, and she accidentally fell into the artificial lake, letting out a scream. Su Qingye, who had been wearing a cold expression, could no longer stay calm. He took off his jacket and jumped in swiftly to save her. Meanwhile, I rubbed the ordinary brooch on my clothes, holding the fresh recording of the conversation between Jiang Luoluo and Su Qingye. I sent it to the class group chat. After a while, I watched as Su Qingye picked up the drenched Jiang Luoluo, gently retrieved the jacket from the ground, and carefully draped it over her. So I asked with a playful tone, "Are you two still going to the homeroom teacher's office?" Su Qingye suddenly rushed over, yanked the brooch off my clothes, threw it to the ground, and stomped it to pieces. Upon discovering it wasn't a camera, he let out a sigh of relief. Pointing at me, he angrily said, "I'm going to tell the homeroom teacher how you bullied Jiang Luoluo and drove her to jump into the lake. Song Yuning, you'd better prepare to be expelled from school." Turning around, Su Qingye looked at Jiang Luoluo with eyes full of concern. "I'll take you to the infirmary, borrow some clothes from the doctor for you to change into, and buy some medicine. Don't catch a cold." Jiang Luoluo shook her head firmly. "No need, Qingye. Let's go to the homeroom teacher first and get this matter cleared up." Su Qingye nodded. "Whatever you say." I followed behind the two of them, watching the teachers and classmates in the class group chat who, after listening to the recording, were constantly blaming Su Qingye and Jiang Luoluo. I just felt that the two of them, holding hands and rushing to face their doom ahead, looked utterly ridiculous. As soon as they reached the homeroom teacher's office, Jiang Luoluo's tears started streaming down again. Teacher Ma, who knew the truth, didn't ask a single question, his face as dark as coal. Su Qingye, thinking he was angry at me, braced himself and began to twist the truth. They fabricated a bunch of baseless charges and pinned them all on me one by one. Su Qingye got more and more worked up, bluntly saying that if the homeroom teacher didn't impose a severe punishment and expel me, he would go straight to the principal to complain that the teacher was favoring me and bullying poor students. Teacher Ma was so furious that he was panting heavily, and even his hands were trembling. Teacher Ma took out his phone, found the recording in the class group chat, played it on speaker, and then tossed the phone onto the desk without saying a word the whole time. Jiang Luoluo, who had been crying, instantly fell silent and then passed out. Su Qingye immediately picked her up and rushed to the infirmary, but not before throwing out one last remark. Song Yuning, you make me feel so unfamiliar. When I returned to the classroom from the homeroom teacher's office, the classmates who had previously treated me like a monster all gathered around to apologize. I waved my hand to indicate it wasn't necessary. Having already died once, a couple of painless accusations meant nothing to me, but I would never let the two instigators off the hook. Throughout the entire day's classes, neither Su Qingye nor Jiang Luoluo showed up, probably because the truth had been exposed. Jiang Luoluo didn't dare return to the classroom and face the bombardment from her classmates. In the days that followed, I simply acted as if Su Qingye and Jiang Luoluo didn't exist in the class, studying hard to make final preparations for the college entrance exam. Meanwhile, Jiang Luoluo, unable to bear the strange looks from her classmates, would often run out of the classroom crying, forcing Su Qingye to chase after her and comfort her, or she would claim to have a headache one moment and a stomachache the next, doing everything she could to get Su Qingye to stay with her outside the classroom. By the last mock exam before the college entrance exam, Su Qingye's grades were no longer enough to get into even an ordinary undergraduate program. As soon as I got home from evening self-study, Aunt Zhao came out and stopped me. Yuning, could you come over to Auntie's place for a bit? There's something I'd like to talk to you about. Naturally, I refused. Auntie, it's already quite late. If there's something you need to say, please just say it here. Aunt Zhao sighed. Yuning, you should already know about Ono's grades. I nodded. Since you knew, why didn't you try to stop him? Seeing the reproach on Aunt Zhao's face, I realized that Su Qingye's bizarre way of thinking was hereditary. Why should I try to persuade him? Aunt Zhao sighed again. You know perfectly well that his grades have plummeted, and it must be because of that little vixen. What's her name? Jiang Luoluo. Since Uncle and Aunt stopped her from moving into our house, you should be responsible for keeping an eye on her at school and making sure she doesn't distract Qingye. Remember, you are Qingye's fiancé. I was left speechless. Aunt Zhao, the college entrance exam is just around the corner. It's too late for you to step in and interfere with Su Qingye's studies now. Aunt Zhao was stunned for a moment, then pulled herself together and grabbed my wrist, as if she had made up her mind. Good child. Auntie knows you truly care about Qingye. If Qingye can't get into the same university as you in this college entrance exam, then next year, you two can repeat a year together. During the retake year, you must keep a close watch on Qingye's studies. Don't let him fall again because of some irrelevant person. Once both of you get into university next year, I'll immediately throw you a grand engagement ceremony. I subtly pulled my hand away. No need, Auntie. Aunt Zhao's face suddenly changed. What do you mean? You're not willing to repeat a year for Ono, you child? Why are you so stubborn? Qingye is such a good person. If you don't keep an eye on him, other girls will snatch him away, and then you'll have nowhere to cry. Just listen to Auntie. Teach Qingye well. The better he becomes, the more you'll benefit in the end, right? Besides, you're the only daughter in your family, and your family's company will have to rely on Qingye to manage it in the future. Stop talking. I impatiently interrupted Aunt Zhao's incessant brainwashing. Su Qingye chose his own path in life. Just let him live it. As for my family's company, it's none of an outsider's business. You'd better worry about yourselves. The accounts at Dad's company have been mostly settled, and soon all of Su's funds will be completely withdrawn. I glanced at the Su family villa. Here, it will soon change hands, and then I won't have to look at the Su family's ugly faces anymore. The day before the college entrance exam, Su Qingye, who had always treated me like I was invisible, surprisingly asked me to meet him in the alley behind the school, saying he regretted it. I gladly accept. Whether he regretted it or not, I had no idea. I only know that Jiang Luoluo must have lost her composure and is about to make a move against me. After evening self-study ended, I walked alone to the alley as promised. The lights flickered on and off, creating an eerie atmosphere. Just as I expected, Su Qingye didn't show up. Jiang Luoluo held Su Qingye's phone and turned around triumphantly. Didn't expect it, did you? It's me. I quietly watched her. What did you come to me for? Jiang Luoluo didn't answer. Instead, she shook the phone in her hand, the one that belonged to Su Qingye. Miss Song, I just casually sent you a message using Qingya's phone, and you came running here. It seems you must love Qingya to death, don't you? Ah, but Qingya's heart is completely with me. He's always by my side, keeping me company, caring for me. Doesn't it hurt you to see that? I didn't interrupt Jiang Luolua's delusions and quietly watched her show off. Some people were getting impatient. What the hell are you rambling about? As the words fell, 7 or 8 men wielding iron rods emerged from the other end of the alley. The one at the front pointed at me and questioned Jiang Luoluo in a hostile tone. This little bitch, you're telling me she can come up with $1 million? Jiang Luoluo, are you trying to screw me over? Jiang Luoluo explained frantically. Cousin, how would I dare to lie to you? She's the heiress of the Song Group. Forget $1 million, even 10 million. She can afford it, really, but cousin, once you get the money, you have to make sure things are handled cleanly. If her father traces it back to you, neither of us will survive. I raised an eyebrow. Was she trying to silence me for good? I watched as a group of thugs closed in on me. Jiang Luoluo, at the very back, said hoarsely, Song Yuning, go to hell. If it weren't for you, I'd still be the noble and resilient school beauty in everyone's eyes. How did I end up like this? A rat everyone despises. Even Qingya has grown distant from me. I can feel it. His affection for me has gradually turned into pity. I don't want this. As long as you're dead, there'll be no engagement binding Qingya, and he'll surely fall in love with me again. Jiang Luoluo laughed maniacally, but I felt no tension at all. Instead, I was thrilled to the core. Stop! A loud shout pierced the silent night just as the gang of thugs raised their clubs less than 3 meters away from me. Countless bodyguards with cameras rushed out of the interconnected alleys, shoving the cameras into the thugs' faces and snapping photos non-stop. The once ferocious-looking thugs were suddenly at a loss. Seeing this, Jiang Luoluo tried to run, but I ordered my men to stop her. With solid evidence, I called the police on the spot. Jiang Luoluo was stunned, then glared at me with venom. Ha, so you already knew. Song Yuning, what have I ever done to wrong you? Why are you doing this to me? Watching her hysterical, aggrieved, and resentful expression, I found it utterly ridiculous. Sure enough, true. Dylans always see themselves as the victims. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her anymore. 10 minutes later, the police arrived, and the whole group was taken to the police station overnight. The news that the Song family's heiress, envied for her engagement to the young master of the Su family, was cornered by thugs in an alley went viral on the trending list overnight. Early the next morning, I got ready and set off to take the college entrance exam, and Su Qingya was sitting right at my doorstep. Seeing me, he stood up in a fluster, with dark circles under his eyes and disheveled hair. He looked as if he hadn't slept all night. He opened his mouth, as if too ashamed to speak, until I brushed past him and walked ahead. He gently tugged at my clothes, his tone laced with regret. Yuning, I'm sorry. I didn't know Jiang Luoluo was that kind of person. I almost put you in danger. Luckily, you were on guard. Can we just let this go with Jiang Luoluo? She is really pitiful, but don't worry, I won't be with her anymore. I'll honor our engagement properly and draw a clear line with her. I shook off Su Qingya's hand. She has no chance now, and neither do you. After the college entrance exam, Su Qingya's family came to my house again. Unlike their usual politeness, this time they were stopped by the servants at the gate. Su's father was so angry that he started cursing outside the door. Song Yuning, what do you mean by this? Get out here right now. My son didn't even take the college entrance exam because of the harm you caused him. You must give me an explanation. I pushed open the door, leaned against the doorframe, and looked at the indignant couple outside. What? You found out my parents went on vacation to a seaside resort, so you came to bully a little girl like me? A flicker of embarrassment crossed Su's mother's face, but she quickly suppressed it. How could that be, Yuning? You and Qingya have known each other since childhood. Would you really give up on that bond just because of a misunderstanding caused by some wild girl? What a shame. As she spoke, she gave Su Qingya a push forward. Say something, Qingya. Only then did Su Qingya look at me, and for a moment, his eyes lit up. Yuning, I'm sorry, I didn't take the college entrance exam. I let you down, but I've realized that without you, I don't want anything. The exam doesn't matter to me at all anymore. Watching his clumsy acting, I couldn't help but let out a sneer. Su Qingya, are you trying to pin the blame on me for not taking the college entrance exam? You know perfectly well that you've already wasted your studies. With your current ability, even if you had taken the exam, there's no way you could have gotten a good score. Su Qingya explained in a fluster. No, that's not it, Yuning. As long as you repeat a year with me, I'll definitely make you proud. I'll get into the same university as you, and we'll be like before. Okay, please, don't abandon me. Su Qingya, who had always been arrogant, was now willing to beg me humbly. It was definitely not because he loved me. It must be that the Son family's withdrawal of investment had caught the Su family's attention. I was afraid that my parents would soften toward the old friend they had dealt with for years, so I made them go on vacation to avoid it. After all, they hadn't experienced the painful ordeals I went through in my previous life. In my eyes, Su Qingya could never be forgiven. I closed the door, and the light in Su Qingya's eyes faded in the last sliver of the gap. His whole family was kicked out by the security guards. It wasn't until the day I received my university admission letter and flew to the island to reunite with my parents. Su Qingya's family, bankrupt and panicked, hastily packed their belongings and fled from the villa. They were intercepted halfway by the creditors I had notified in advance. The Su couple both ended up in prison, while Su Qingya was left on the streets, becoming the favorite subject of tabloid reporters, a fallen young master. His embarrassing photos trended on the hot search list every few days, either rummaging through trash cans for food or stealing steamed buns and getting chased and beaten. As for me, I never ran into him again. Story 2. I had been married to lawyer Robert for 7 years and separated for 3 years. We met again in court, where my father's car accident case was being heard. I am the plaintiff, seeking justice for my father. Robert is the lawyer for the defendant, trying to acquit his white moonlight. Later, it was rumored in the legal circle that lawyer Robert had never lost a case since his debut, but only suffered losses twice, and both times at the hands of his wife. One was a car accident and the other was a divorce. In court, I stared blankly at the dock. I didn't expect that the courtroom was full of acquaintances. The female driver who caused the accident was my husband's white moonlight, and the lawyer she hired was my husband, Robert. Robert is a famous lawyer in China. We have been married for 7 years and separated for 3 years. Since he won that lawsuit for my father 3 years ago, he went to another city on the grounds of opening up new markets. Even when I lowered my stance and begged him to come back to help me because of my father's car accident, he just replied coldly, "I can't come back, I'm busy." Over the years, I thought I had already gotten used to his alienation and perfunctoriness, but now, the white moonlight on the dock pouted and said something to Robert with a wronged look on her face. Robert, who had always been cold, now had an extremely gentle expression and gently patted her hand to comfort her. My heart trembled and countless questions flashed through my mind. Why were they together? Why did they look so intimate? Did Robert not come back to help me because he wanted to acquit his white moonlight? When the lawyer I hired saw Robert, he was also full of surprise and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. I'm afraid he didn't expect that his opponent was the famous lawyer Robert, who had never lost a case since his debut. It was not until the judge asked me for evidence that I regained my composure and sent out the video taken by the action camera. "Hello, everyone. My name is Emma and I'm a photographer. On the day of the incident, my father and I went out to prepare video materials. This is the picture I took with the action camera on my body." The defendant rushed towards the zebra crossing regardless of the red light, injured my father and then fled the scene directly. After watching the video, the judge nodded and looked at Robert's side. "Does the defendant have anything to refute?" Robert stood up calmly. "Emma's action camera only recorded that the accident vehicle hit the victim, but the person driving it that time was not our client, but her assistant." As he spoke, Robert pointed to the assistant sitting next to the white moonlight, who looked quite similar to her. "All the violations of traffic rules and hit and run were done by our client's assistant alone and have nothing to do with the client." I gritted my teeth and glared at Robert. When I first saw Robert, I still had a glimmer of hope in my heart, but I never expected that Robert could go this far for his white moonlight. He didn't hesitate to perjure himself and find a scapegoat. And Robert's next words made my heart even colder. "Your Honor, I have a document in my hand. The plaintiff's father tried to blackmail our client many years ago. The circumstances of the case were serious at that time, and it was our client who took the initiative to propose a settlement. As far as I know, the plaintiff's father doesn't live in this city, but he suddenly appeared on our client's driving route, so we have reason to suspect that the plaintiff is very likely to want to blackmail our client again." My heart throbbed with pain. I underestimated Robert, his ability and his attention to his white moonlight. For the white moonlight, he didn't hesitate to perjure himself and even planned to throw the dirty water back on me, his wife. I clenched my fists and stared at Robert. "Lawyer Robert, don't you think it's ironic? You were the one who defended my father in the blackmail case back then." Robert's eyes dodged for a moment and then he said coldly, "Plaintiff, please don't talk about topics unrelated to the case." Robert is usually a rather cold person. After Marriage. He never called me by any affectionate names like wife, but I never thought that one day he would call me plaintiff since both sides presented quite a lot of evidence. The debate in court reached a result for a while, so the judge decided to have a recess. During the break, I ignored the lawyer's obstruction and insisted on going to find Robert. When I saw Robert, he was holding Zoe and gently patting her back. Zoe buried her face in his arms and listened to his gentle comfort, just like a happy wife. Only I knew that she was just a despicable thief. Seeing this scene, I couldn't control my emotions and screamed, "Robert!" The two people who were startled by my voice immediately separated. Zoe breathed a sigh of relief when she saw me and sneered contemptuously, "Oh, who do I think it is? Isn't this our famous photographer Emma? Does teacher Emma usually not get any business otherwise? Why after so many years, do you still have to rely on blackmailing me for a living?" "Oh, I forgot. Teacher Emma's father is a blackmailer." Sure enough, like father like son, ha ha ha. Zoe became more and more excited and finally couldn't help laughing. Facing Zoe's shameless remarks, I sneered and retorted, "No matter how bad my business is, it's better than you, a famous actress who seduces a married man. What face does a person who knows she is the third party have to talk about others? Ms. Zoe, if your fans know what you have done, will anyone still support you?" The smile on Zoe's face couldn't be maintained and suddenly became gloomy. "Emma, are you threatening me? Also, who do you say is the third party? Obviously, you stole my things when I was away." Robert grabbed the flailing Zoe and said softly, "Zoe, don't be excited." Then he turned to me and said in a stern tone, "Plaintiff, we are still in court. Please pay attention to your influence and don't mess around." My hands trembled slightly. The Robert in front of me gave me a terrible sense of strangeness. So he could call others by nicknames. So he could care about others so meticulously. So I never really understood Robert. I trembled my lips and said bitterly, "Robert, tell me, how long have you and Zoe been together?" Robert frowned. "Plaintiff, this is the court. Let's talk about our private affairs when we get home. Do we still have a home?" I roared out of control. "When was the last time you came home? As soon as you come back, you want to acquit the murderer and fight a lawsuit with your wife. Robert, are you still human?" Robert frowned tightly and remained silent, but Zoe laughed again at this time. "Haha, teacher Emma, don't be excited, we are all women, I understand you, but I still want to give you a piece of advice. We are not in ancient times now. This is an era of freedom and equality for everyone. The person who is not loved is the third party in the emotional life." Zoe bit the word third party viciously as if she had finally vented her anger. She put her arm around Robert's arm and leaned on Robert's shoulder with a smile. "Teacher Emma, you don't know yet. If your father hadn't blackmailed me 3 years ago, I wouldn't have reunited with Ali. Thanks to Ali's company these 3 years, I can continue to move forward in the entertainment industry. Although we experienced some difficulties back then, we still overcame most of the difficulties and got together," Zoe said while casting an unfriendly glance at me. "I was there last difficulty, looking at the two of them snuggling up happily. My heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Robert had been away from me for a long time and I took care of all the household affairs by myself. Last month, I had a high fever. In order not to worry my father who was in another city, I dragged my weak body and dizzy head to buy medicine and take care of myself alone. And at that time, Robert was cuddling with another woman. How could he? How dare he?" Seeing that my face was gloomy and I didn't speak anymore, Zoe's arrogance became even more rampant. "Oh, teacher Emma, why don't you continue talking? I tell you, 3 years ago I suffered at the hands of you and your father. Now, 3 years later, I will get everything back with interest. I will make you and your father both go to prison for a lifetime." Robert patted Zoe's hand. "Zoe, we are still in court. Be careful with your words." He was reminding Zoe and also protecting her. I looked at Robert. My heart had already sunk and now I just wanted an accurate answer from him. "Robert, tell me seriously, are you really planning to break with me and continue to frame me and my father?" Robert's eyes dodged again. After a moment of silence, he said coldly, "Miss Emma, I am a lawyer. Once I accept the client's entrustment, I have to provide services for her. I still say that. We can talk about our private affairs privately, but now I am her lawyer and I am at work." Robert's words indirectly admitted his position. He beat around the bush but still firmly stood by Zoe's side. I nodded and sneered coldly. "Robert, okay, you're great." The recess time ended quickly. We returned to the courtroom and started a new round of debate. Although the lawyer I hired was not as strong as Robert in terms of strength, fortunately, the evidence I provided was strong enough. Even though Robert was eloquent, the debate was still evenly matched. Robert had always claimed that Zoe was innocent and constantly tried to lead the case in other directions, and our lawyer always clung to the evidence, and Robert couldn't directly refute for a while. Seeing that the situation was really at a stalemate, the judge finally ruled that the case was adjourned for the time being and the second trial would be held at a later date. When I walked to the door of the court, I saw Zoe put her arms around Robert's neck and gave him a deep kiss. Haha, Ollie is so amazing, here's a reward for you. Zoe hugged him with a smile, and Robert, who usually had no expression on his face, now also had a smile on his face. I watched them get into a car hand in hand and then took a taxi to the hospital. My mother eloped with someone else when I was very young, and my father brought me up by himself. He is my irreplaceable support in this world, so no matter what happens, I will seek justice for my father. My father in the hospital still hasn't woken up. I took care of him alone as before. I didn't leave the hospital until it was completely dark that day and then dragged my tired body to go home. However, to my surprise, when I came downstairs, I found that the lights in the house were on. Could it be? With an unbelievable thought, I opened the door. Robert took off his glasses and sat in the kitchen, holding a barrel-shaped zonzi leaf in one hand and skillfully stuffing rice into it with the other hand. Such a scene of life was hard to associate with the famous lawyer Robert, who was so powerful in court. Seeing me standing at the door in a daze, Robert put down the work in his hands and wiped his hands on the apron. You're back. Do you want to eat an egg? As he said this, he handed me an egg painted with a red symbol. Only then did I suddenly realize that it was almost the Dragon Boat Festival. After Robert was transferred to a law firm in another city, he rarely came home, but he would still take the time to come back during holidays, and the Dragon Boat Festival has a unique meaning for us. To be exact, this egg painted with a red symbol has a deeper meaning. Every Dragon Boat Festival, Robert would make zonzi and paint eggs with red symbols by himself, but now, his nonchalant appearance is an irony and insult to me. A surge of anger rose in my heart and I slapped away the hand he handed me. The egg, pop, the egg fell to the ground and was completely broken, just like my heart. Robert, what do you mean? I clenched my fists and looked at Robert with no expression on his face. Haven't you already cheated on me? Aren't you being affectionate with Zoe? What are you doing back at this home? This home doesn't welcome you. Get out of here. Robert looked at me in a rage and sighed. Emma, don't be like this. I already know about Uncle's condition. I know several foreign experts and I can help contact them for Uncle. No need. I rudely interrupted Robert's speech. Robert remained silent for a long time after I interrupted him and finally sat back at the table to make zonzi again. Looking at Robert, who was busy at the table, my vision gradually blurred. Once upon a time, we would also make zonzi together, prepare for festivals together and laugh at each other's ugly finished products. But since when did we become like this? Shasha. The kitchen was quiet for a while. Only the rustling sound of rice falling into the zonzi leaves could be heard. After a long silence, I asked that question again. Robert, how long have you and Zoe been together? Robert's hand stopped for a moment and then he replied after a while, after I helped Uncle win the lawsuit back then, Zoe took the initiative to contact me. Most of what she said today was just to anger you. Don't take it too seriously. The facts were already in front of me and Robert's words still seemed to want to downplay this matter. But this is not in court and I won't give up asking him just because of insufficient evidence. Robert, I saw it with my own eyes. Do you still want to lie? Robert sighed. Emma, I'm really just friends with her. Ha ha. I laughed. I was laughed at by Robert's lame lie. Then I stepped forward and grabbed Robert's collar. Robert, do you think everyone is a fool? Friends, would friends kiss goodbye at the court entrance? Or do you want to frame your wife for the sake of a friend? How long do you want to deceive others? Robert's unfinished zonzi was knocked over by me and the crystal clear rice spilled all over the floor. He lowered his eyes and didn't dare to look at me. After a while, I let go of his collar. At this point, violence will only intensify the conflict. I want to completely clarify Robert's thoughts here. Robert, we have been married for 7 years, I said slowly. In the first 4 years, we lived in harmony, although it wasn't extremely warm and cheesy. At that time I could clearly feel that you had me in your heart and I also had you in mine. But since you helped my father win that lawsuit 3 years ago, you have changed. You have gradually become cold and ignored me. Robert, tell me seriously. I looked into his eyes and asked the thing that had been hidden in my heart for many years. Are you still bothered by the fact that I asked you to help my father deal with Zoe back then? This car accident case is not the first lawsuit between me and Zoe. As early as 3 years ago, Zoe and her agency sued my father on charges such as blackmail. Back then, I begged Robert to defend my father, which kept him from going to jail. Now that I think about it, it wasn't long after that lawsuit that Robert found an excuse to transfer to a law firm in another city. Faced with my interrogation, Robert finally stopped being silent. Emma, I've never regretted taking on Uncle's case. You're my wife. Everything I did for you, I did willingly. I did get back in touch with Zoe around that time. After getting this answer, I slumped into the chair. I should have known, I murmured, looking at Robert. I should have known you couldn't let it go. After all, Zoe is your first love. Robert fell silent again. Perhaps, even with his silver tongue, he didn't know what to say. I asked again, what about me? In your heart, our home, our marriage, everything we've gone through together all these years, what on earth do they all amount to? Robert finally looked at me at this moment. There was a bit of tenderness in his eyes, but also some determination. Emma, I always remember how kind you've been to me. I clearly remember every festival, anniversary, and birthday we've spent together. Every time, you'd prepare the best gifts for me and give me the warmest tenderness. There's probably no one in this world who cares about me more than you, but, perhaps because of that, I mistook your tenderness for a substitute for Zoe. The warmer Robert's previous words were, the more heartless his last words became. I smiled bitterly. So, are you trying to say, all these years, you've never truly loved me and just regarded me as a replacement for Zoe? Robert stammered. I don't know. I shook my head. How could you not know, Robert? You're the great lawyer Robert, a top-notch lawyer with a sharp tongue and logical thinking that others can't match. How could you not sort out your own affairs? You just don't want to admit it. Robert's silence was the best confirmation of my words. He cleaned up the mess on the floor and then offered, Emma, if you really can't accept it, you can file for divorce from me. He said the word divorce so easily. I looked at Robert, who had regained his calm state, and gave a faint smile. If we divorce, I want all the property. Will lawyer Robert agree? Robert shook his head. No, I'll fight you in court, and I'll go all out. What a go all out. Lawyer Robert really lived up to his reputation as a top lawyer who had been through countless battles and never lost. Even in his own divorce case, he wanted to win without mercy. Somehow, after knowing Robert's true feelings, my heart felt a bit lighter. As if I'd put down a heavy burden, I relaxed my body, leaned back in the chair, and said softly, since lawyer Robert has made it so clear, there's nothing more for us to talk about. At that time, I'll spend a fortune to hire experts to deal with lawyer Robert. I'd like to see if lawyer Robert is truly invincible. By the way, lawyer Robert wouldn't be so mean as to threaten your colleagues not to take my case, would you? Robert lowered his eyes and replied, no, I won't do such a despicable thing. I gave a light laugh. Lawyer Robert is really a role model in the industry. I stretched, then made a please gesture. This house is in my name. Since we've decided to divorce, please leave my home, Mr. Robert. I'm tired and need to rest early. I have to go to the hospital to take care of the patient tomorrow. Robert wiped his hands in a flurry, finally took off his apron, and walked out gently. Dong. The door was closed gently by Robert, making only a very faint sound. It was only long after Robert left that I leaned forward onto the table. The long-suppressed hot tears flowed quietly in the darkness. Early the next morning, I rushed to the hospital. To my delight, my father finally woke up from his coma. Seeing me taking care of him, my father said contentedly, my girl has grown up and knows how to care for her old dad. Isn't Robert here? My hand holding the towel stiffened slightly. Then I forced a smile. That guy Robert is busy with all kinds of lawsuits every day. Sometimes he doesn't even come home. My father looked at me worriedly and couldn't help but urge, you should also care more about him. Robert is a quiet boy. Dad tells you, many family conflicts can be resolved if you talk them out. I forced back the tears in my eyes, turned around, and said softly, I know. Then I carried the basin and walked out. However, when passing by the department, the doctor stopped me. Emma, right. The doctor adjusted his glasses and said worriedly, Emma, you had a pre-pregnancy checkup in our hospital before. Now the results are out. Hearing the doctor's words, I suddenly remembered. Before, I told Robert that I wanted to prepare for pregnancy and have a baby with him. In a few years, I'd be approaching 30, and the risks of pregnancy as an older mother would be higher. Robert neither opposed nor agreed at that time, only suggesting that I have a physical examination first. I looked at the doctor's conflicted expression and had a bad premonition. I quickly asked, Doctor, is there something wrong with my body? The doctor glanced in the direction of my father's ward to make sure he couldn't hear, then pulled me aside and whispered, Emma, we found some diseased cells in your blood. If not treated in time, it may develop into an incurable terminal illness. With the current medical means, The only way to treat this disease is to transplant a suitable kidney. Moments later, sitting on the bench in the corridor, I crumpled the examination sheet irritably and stuffed it into my pocket. The doctor's words kept echoing in my mind. If the disease worsens due to lack of timely treatment, your lifespan may only be 3 to 5 years. This wasn't the first time I'd faced life and death matters. Not long after Robert and I got together, his mother passed away. That was the first time I'd faced death in reality and also the first time I saw Robert break down emotionally and cry out, but I never expected that such a thing would happen to me so soon. I'm not afraid of death itself. If it were just me, it wouldn't matter. But what about my father? He's far from being old. Is he going to have to send his child to the grave? Just as I was agonizing and hesitating, an annoying voice suddenly reached my ears. Oh, isn't this Teacher Emma? What a coincidence. I turned my head and saw Zoe's face. Robert was following her. He was stunned for a moment when he saw me. Zoe came up to me with a big smile on her face. Is Teacher Emma's father also in this hospital? What a coincidence. Teacher Emma, guess what? I'm here for a checkup today. I pursed my lips and said impatiently, don't want to guess, get lost. A crack appeared in Zoe's smile, but she still managed to hold it together. Teacher Emma has such a sharp tongue. It'd be better if you used it more in court, but I'm in a good mood today. Let Teacher Emma share in my joy too. She put her arm around Robert and smiled extra happily. I'm pregnant. It's Ollie's baby. We're going to have our own little baby soon. Ollie, are you happy? Robert nodded and gave a soft, but I felt my scalp tingle. Looking at Robert and Zoe, my mind went blank for a moment. Zoe already has a child with Robert, so they've been together much longer than I thought. I was silent for a while, then finally smiled at Zoe. Really? Then congratulations, Miss Zoe. However, I've heard that Miss Zoe hasn't made her affairs public yet. If your fans find out that their goddess has a baby with someone else's husband, won't they be heartbroken? Zoe's expression instantly fell after hearing my words. Emma, you have such a cheap mouth. Zoe gritted her teeth. Don't be so full of yourself. Ollie told me you're going to file for divorce from him. Ollie is a great lawyer. He can't lose the divorce lawsuit. He'll definitely make you leave the house penniless. I'll be Ollie's lawfully wedded wife, and you're just an abandoned clown. Zoe's once delicate face was now distorted with jealousy, like a snarling old cat. I sneered disdainfully. Then you'd better hurry up and urge lawyer Robert to draw up the tactics for the divorce lawsuit. If I find any loopholes or flaws, it might be your lawyer Robert who leaves the house penniless. Zoe was stunned for a moment after hearing my words, as if she was really scared. Ollie, she's lying, right? You can't lose, right? Zoe gently tugged on Robert's sleeve and asked. Robert forced a smile and rubbed Zoe's head. No matter who I'm up against, I'll go all out, Robert said softly. After getting Robert's assurance, Zoe regained her previous arrogance, and the fear on her face vanished. Suddenly, she saw the examination sheet in my hand and laughed. Hey, why does Teacher Emma still have an examination sheet? Did you get a checkup for yourself too, to see how many years you have left to live? Ha ha ha. My face darkened, then returned to normal. Yeah, the doctor said I'm in great health. Living to 100 won't be a problem. Looking at the arrogant Zoe, I gave a faint smile. Compared to me, some people should care more about themselves. The risks during pregnancy are huge. You can't bump or fall, and you can't eat too much flavorful food. Giving birth is also a life or death situation. Not everyone can bear that pain. Oh, by the way, it's inevitable that your figure will change after giving birth. I wonder, Miss Zoe, do you have the perseverance to get your figure back after giving birth? If you can't, I'm afraid Miss Zoe's acting career will come to a perfect end. With each sentence I said, Zoe's face turned a shade paler. When she heard that she might not be able to act anymore, Zoe's body went limp and she hung on to Robert. You're lying. I'm going to be an international star. How could I stop acting just because I have a baby? Zoe retorted in a low voice, but her tone didn't sound very confident. Seeing Zoe so frightened, I finally let out some of my pent-up anger, but the next second, Robert patted Zoe's hand. Don't be afraid, life is long, anything is possible, with me by your side, don't worry. Robert's tenderness towards Zoe stuffed the anger I'd just released right back in. After getting comforted, Zoe completely got rid of her fear and gave Robert a gentle kiss on the cheek. I knew you were the best. It was soon Zoe's turn to have her checkup. After Zoe left, Robert turned his eyes back to me. Emma, are you okay? He said slowly. His tone wasn't exactly cold, but it wasn't very warm either. I didn't look at him, turned my head, and said with a laugh, what's not okay with me? Didn't I say it? The doctor said I can live to be 100. By then, I'll outlive you too. Then you'll know what a great person you've missed. Faced with my retort, Robert didn't argue further. He just reached out his hand. If that's the case, let me see the examination sheet. Let me share in the joy too. I turned to look at him. Sneered disdainfully, share the joy, with you, why, then, as if in a fit of pique, I threw the crumpled examination sheet into the trash can. If lawyer Robert wants to share the joy, go dig through the trash. I gave a contemptuous laugh. After all, lawyer Robert likes to pick up trash, doesn't he? Robert didn't say anything, just looked at me, then at the trash can. I didn't want to waste any more time with him, so I picked up my things and left. After taking a few steps, I turned to look. Robert was still standing in front of the trash can, and I had no idea what he was thinking. Humph. I snorted coldly and walked back to my father's ward. I thought to myself, Robert is still the same as before. He wants to say something but doesn't know how to, leaving others to guess the hidden meaning behind his words. It's really annoying. After learning that my father was also being treated in this hospital, Zoe seemed to have pressed some strange switch. She always strutted around in front of my father and me, deliberately or not, with her pregnant belly, as if she wanted to show off. My father didn't recognize Zoe. One day, he tugged at my sleeve and whispered, Emma, recently, there's always a pregnant woman in sunglasses hanging around us. Could it be some love debt that Robert has incurred outside? He hasn't come to visit with you for a long time either. I was shocked, but to take care of my father's emotions, I forced a smile. Dad, you're overthinking it. How could a wooden guy like Robert have an affair? Pregnant women are often in a bad mood and like to go out for a walk. It's normal. Don't think too much, just rest and recover. I'll handle the rest. With my comforting words, my father reluctantly relaxed. However, as soon as I walked out of the ward with the thermos, I saw the haughty Zoe. Oh, teacher Emma, what a coincidence. Looking at Zoe's fake smile, I got angry immediately. Miss Zoe, instead of staying at home to take good care of your baby, what are you always doing in the hospital? Are you trying to flirt with the doctors? Zoe's face darkened at once. Emma, don't spout nonsense. She turned to look at my father sitting on the hospital bed inside the room and sneered. After all these years, this old ghost still looks as sly as ever. Also, when your whole family coaxed Robert to deal with me years ago, I knew you were no good. Hearing Zoe shamelessly insult my father, I was instantly furious. I clenched my fists. Ms. Zoe, you know very well what really happened back then. If you still want to insult and frame my father with old grudges, I don't mind suing you again in court. Hearing my cold counterattack, Zoe became even more excited. Humph. So what if I say it? That old ghost and you are just a family of blackmailers, a nest of thieves. What if I scold that old ghost? Come and hit me if you have the guts. With that, Zoe walked straight towards me with her belly. I didn't want to touch her and stepped back several times, but Zoe seemed relentless. The more I retreated, the more she pushed forward. Suddenly, the ward door behind me was opened by someone inside and hit me. I couldn't dodge in time and bumped into Zoe, and Zoe, who was charging straight at me, was knocked to the ground by this sudden impact. Wow, murder. The blackmailer hit a pregnant woman. Woo, my stomach hurts so much. Save my baby. Zoe sat down on the ground and immediately switched on her acting mode. She covered her stomach with one hand, pointed at me with the other, and rolled around on the ground, just like a shrew. People around quickly gathered after hearing the noise. What's going on? What happened? I don't know. I heard someone hit a pregnant woman. Huh, this pregnant woman looks a bit familiar. Soon, the doctor also came over. Seeing that Zoe claimed to be injured, he quickly helped her up and took her for an examination. Only I was left, unable to leave, and the crowd that was pointing fingers. Who is this woman? Why did she hit a pregnant woman? I remember her. She's the one who's been in the news recently, having a lawsuit with an artist. Oh, I remember now. I heard that she and her dad used to blackmail a young girl together. So shameless. I watched Zoe gradually walking away, gnashing my teeth but helpless. I could only squeeze out of the crowd first and go back to my father's ward to think of a countermeasure. When I rushed out, I suddenly felt a heat in my nose, and 2 lines of blood flowed out. I stared blankly at the blood dripping on my hand and remembered the doctor's words. Without timely treatment, you may only have 3 to 5 years to live. Now it seemed that 3 to 5 years was already very ideal comfort talk. I quickly rushed into the toilet to wash away the blood, splashed some water on my face, and then pretended nothing had happened and returned to my father. I thought that after this incident, Zoe would restrain herself a little, but I never expected that Zoe would soon fight back with the dirtiest means. Dad, I'll handle the transfer procedures for you this afternoon. Let's change to another hospital, I said suddenly while peeling an apple for my father. My father was stunned for a moment and asked curiously, why, isn't it good here? Just as I was thinking about how to convince my father, the ward door was pushed open violently. Robert, with a cold face, strode in. Seeing Robert, my father quickly smiled. "Ah, isn't this Robert? Long time no see, how's work going recently?" Robert was stunned for a moment when he saw my father, and then he slightly restrained his coldness. "Uncle, good morning, my work is okay, but I've been too busy recently and really didn't have time to visit you. Uncle, I need to talk to Emma about something." With that, he glared at me, motioning for me to follow him out. I followed him to the hospital corridor, crossed my arms, and sneered, "Lawyer Robert, what's so urgent that you can't talk about it in front of my father in the ward? Don't you want to, or are you afraid?" Robert didn't answer my question but just stared at me intently. "Emma, you've gone too far this time," he said, his tone full of blame and anger. "Zoe and the baby in her belly are innocent. You laid hands on her. Were you trying to vent your anger and take revenge on me? If you have something against me, come at me." Robert's voice grew louder and louder until it turned into a roar. In the 7 years of our marriage, it was the first time I saw Robert lose his temper like this. And it was all for another woman. I swallowed my grievance and still didn't give in. "She deserved it. She's been hanging around my father and me recently. If she was just a nuisance like a mosquito, that would be fine. But she even humiliated my father in front of me." Robert was silent for a moment after hearing this, and then he tried to excuse her. "Zoe isn't that unreasonable. There might be some misunderstanding." As expected of a great lawyer, he started to excuse his sweetheart. Right away, I looked into his eyes and said slowly, "Robert, you say there might be a misunderstanding when Zoe cursed my father, then couldn't there also be a misunderstanding about me hurting Zoe? What if Zoe came up to me on her own? What if her being pushed down was just an accident she brought upon herself?" Robert didn't say anything. After a long while, he continued to make a weak argument. "As a lawyer, I only believe in what I see and the results proven by evidence. Everyone in the hospital saw it. Even Zoe herself said that you pushed her down." Robert couldn't help sighing. "Emma, you really went too far this time. I don't ask you for any compensation. Go and apologize to Zoe. The car accident case isn't over yet. Stirring up trouble now will be very unfavorable for you." Robert seemed to care about me, but in fact, he was still sharing Zoe's worries. "I'm just a photographer working behind the scenes, while Zoe is a famous actress in the public eye. If something happens during this sensitive period, Zoe will be the most affected." So Robert wanted to make a big deal small and a small deal nothing. Thinking of this, my vision suddenly blurred, as if covered with a layer of mist. "Robert, I say I did nothing wrong. It was all Zoe's fault. Do you believe me?" I said these seemingly willful but true words, trying to find a crack in Robert's heartless face, but he still said expressionlessly, "Emma, I only believe in results proven by evidence. Go and apologize, or I'll make you pay the price in court." In the end, I still didn't go to apologize. I've always been the kind of person who means what I say. Besides, it was clearly Zoe who was at fault first. If Robert wanted to get serious, let him come. I endured the heartache and went back to my father's ward. My father looked at me worriedly and finally said after a long time, "Alas, Emma, tell Dad the truth. Have you been having problems with Robert recently? I've heard on the internet that Robert is representing the driver who hit me and is also being ambiguous with that girl." My eyes widened instantly as I looked at my father. "Dad, you already knew." My father patted my head, with a gentle and apologetic smile on his face. "Silly girl, how could a father not understand his daughter? I've seen how unhappy you've been these days." Alas, at that time, I thought Robert was an honest and capable guy. "So I handed you over to him. Now, I guess it's just fate playing tricks." I rubbed the tears in my eyes and gently shook my head. "Dad, it has nothing to do with you. Marrying Robert was also my own decision." I was about to say something more when I suddenly felt an itch in my nose. I got nervous immediately. "Dad, you rest first. I'm going to the toilet." I quickly threw out a sentence and then rushed towards the toilet. This time, the situation seemed even worse. I kept vomiting and coughing in the toilet, and finally coughed up some scarlet dots. Looking at my increasingly pale face in the mirror, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Then I took out my phone and dialed a number. "Hello, is that Lawyer Jack? How's the matter I asked you to handle last time?" Lawyer Jack on the other end of the phone sounded a bit confused. "It's done, but, although it's your freedom to make a will, I'm still a bit curious. You're so young. Why do you want to do this?" I wiped my nose with some water and shook my head. "Don't worry about it. Just do as I say. After I die, transfer all my property to my father's name." This was the last thing I could do for my father. Lawyer Jack was silent for a moment again, And then he told me some very bad news. Miss Emma, go and check the internet quickly. Miss, Zoe seems to have posted what happened before about you on the internet. A bad premonition welled up in my heart. I quickly opened the video website. In the video, Zoe deliberately put on a haggard makeup, lying on the hospital bed, and said in a half-dead tone, "My fans, I'm sorry, I might not be able to accompany you any further. A few years ago, Emma and her father colluded to blackmail me and even threatened my boyfriend, lawyer Robert, forcing him to deal with me together with these criminal father and daughter. Fortunately, lawyer Robert still had a sense of justice back then and secretly kept the evidence, so Emma didn't succeed, but now, this father and daughter have come after me again. They not only planned the car accident, trying to blackmail me again, but this time, they even want to steal my boyfriend and my baby." At this point, Zoe in the video covered her face, her shoulders trembling gently, as if she was sobbing. The barrage in the video exploded. How could there be such a bad woman, so disgusting? Can't stand seeing others popular. When you're popular, there are always troubles. Zoe, hold on. The father and daughter are a nest of snakes and mice. They should all die. I never expected Zoe to be so despicable, using public opinion to reverse black and white. Anger filled my head. For a moment, I wanted to rush into Zoe's ward and strangle her, but in the end, I held back. It wouldn't solve the problem. I opened my phone again, scrolled through my contacts, and stopped at Robert's name. In the case back then, Robert defended my father. If he was willing to step forward, Zoe's lies would naturally fall apart. But, would he really step forward? My dispute with Zoe even dates back to when we just got married. At that time, I had just started a family with Robert. As a photographer, I wanted to take on more jobs to support the family together with Robert. One day, I got a job at a comic convention and arrived outside the venue early. The staff said that due to the large flow of people, the opening time might be delayed, so I found a coffee shop nearby to sit for a while. But not long after I sat down, a couple in cosplay came over. "Hello, are you a photographer? My boyfriend and I want to take some photos. Could you help us?" It was still early, so I took on the commission from this couple. An hour later, the shooting task was completed. I added the couple's iMessage and promised to send them the finished photos in a few days. However, when I was checking the shooting results, I suddenly noticed something in the background of the photos. I zoomed in on the photos a lot, and then I saw clearly. It seemed to be a woman wearing sunglasses, sitting by the window of the coffee shop, dating another man. I turned to look, and the couple hadn't left yet. But what surprised me most was that I knew this woman. It was Zoe, and the man she was dating looked a bit familiar, but I couldn't remember who he was exactly. While I was racking my brains, my phone suddenly popped up a news alert. The title was "The famous male star is addicted to deceiving women, a false saint or truly immoral." Seeing this, I suddenly remembered, isn't this Andrew, who has been making a big splash recently? The news said that he was suspected of using drugs and alcohol to sleep with many young girls who had just entered the entertainment circle. It's just that there was no evidence yet, and the police hadn't confirmed it. Of course, it was later proven that Andrew was indeed an immoral artist. However, at that time, all I was thinking was, Andrew is actually having an affair with Zoe. I was enjoying the gossip when Zoe suddenly turned to look out of the window. Our eyes met in the air. I froze, her expression froze too, and then she immediately turned her head and called several big guys to chase after me. The big guys grabbed my wrist, trying to snatch my camera. "Who are you? What are you randomly shooting? No photos can be leaked." Smash her camera. This camera was not only expensive but also my means of making a living, so I struggled desperately and plunged into the crowd coming to the comic convention. Thanks to the large number of people at the scene that day, I was very lucky to get rid of Zoe's bodyguards. When I got home at night, I was thinking about whether to contact the couple, explain the situation, and delete the photos. Then the agency behind Zoe came to the door. They sent a man in a suit to negotiate with me. "Miss Emma, since we're all adults, I'll be frank, you took photos of Miss Zoe and Mr. Andrew today, right?" The man in the suit took a sip of tea and said unhurriedly, "We're not here with any ill intentions today. We just want to buy the photos in your hands. Of course, it's your freedom to sell or not. We're just offering you an option. But if you don't sell, we also have the right to sue you for your actions today and any possible statements you might make in the future. I'm sure you don't want to get involved in a lawsuit for no reason." My father, sitting beside me, tugged at my sleeve worriedly. "Emma, why don't you just sell them to them? You don't need to get involved in this." I nodded and agreed to the conditions of the man in the suit. I didn't care who Zoe was dating with. I only ran away before because Zoe sent people to chase me. Seeing that we reached an agreement, the man in the suit took out a pile of documents for us to sign. At the same time, he asked his subordinates to check all the electronic devices in our home to prevent us from keeping backups. After doing all this, they left. At that time, I was even a bit happy. I didn't plan to expose Zoe and wanted to secretly delete the photos. Now I even made some extra money. It seemed like a win-win situation, but what I didn't expect was that a few days later, the photos of Zoe and Andrew dating were all over the internet. Judging from the appearance of the photos, they were cropped from the ones I handed over. This matter directly hit the hot search, and for a time, Zoe was in deep trouble. If Andrew was confirmed to be an immoral artist, Zoe, who was dating him, would definitely not get away unscathed. At that time, although I felt something was wrong, since we had signed a contract and handed over the photos, theoretically, it had nothing to do with us. Why the photos were leaked later, but I still underestimated their shamelessness. How to suppress a scandal at the lowest cost? The answer is to create another scandal. In the era of traffic, everyone chases the latest and hottest gossip, and few people care about the truth behind it. So Zoe's agency released a statement. They said that my father and I were habitual blackmailers. Recently, we had our eyes on their innocent artist Zoe. To succeed in blackmail, we faked the photos, triggered public opinion, and even they also sent blackmail text messages once the statement was released, and with Zoe's fan group spreading it around, the focus of the whole incident was quickly diverted. All kinds of critical and cursing messages poured into our home like snowflakes every day. My father and I would receive countless calls and text messages on our mobile phones. Those were all the curses from extreme fans. In the morning, the front door and windows of our house would be sprayed with red paint, cursing us to die a miserable death. Before long, my father received a lawyer's letter from Zoe's company. They were going to accuse my father of extortion and defamation. I couldn't bear it any longer and went to find Zoe and her agent. Zoe, don't go too far. I slammed the table and snapped. I never spread your photos on the internet. Your company checked after buying the photos. I didn't keep any backups at all. Now, just to clear your name, you actually want to smear my family. Zoe, are you even human? Facing my anger, Zoe just stared at her freshly manicured nails and sneered. Teacher Emma, I remember you ran away right after taking the photos, didn't you? I wanted to pull you to talk, but I couldn't even hold you back. If you weren't guilty, why did you run? Besides, you took the photos in the morning, and the people from our company only came to you at night. Who knows if you secretly spread the photos on the internet during this period? Zoe's smile gradually disappeared, showing a hint of ruthlessness. Emma, you're a blackmailer. You stole my things. I won't let you go. Those who steal from me, I'll make them pay back 1,000 times over. Looking at Zoe like this, I quickly realized why she was doing this. Sure enough, is it because of Robert? Hearing Robert's name, Zoe's face immediately tensed up. I sneered. Miss Yaw is really infatuated. Are you willing to bet your entire career on Robert? At this moment, I already had a speculation in my heart. Zoe deliberately leaked the photos to frame me. All this was just because Robert was now married to me. Although I had exposed Zoe's thoughts, she still refused to admit defeat. It has nothing to do with Robert. I'm just safeguarding my legitimate rights and interests. She spoke loudly but lacked confidence. I sat back in the chair again. At this point, there was nothing more to talk about. There was little point in seeking the truth because Zoe was clearly targeting me. Zoe, you're so childish. You were the one who abandoned Robert and went abroad. Now that Robert is married, you're still relentless and using such despicable means. Zoe, why are you so difficult? Shut up. Zoe completely lost her temper and flailed around as if she was about to jump across the table and strangle me. Just then, Robert arrived. Emma, are you okay? Robert sat down beside me and gently held my hand under the table. Seeing him, I immediately felt more at ease and shook my head slightly. Robert took over the argument. He stared at Zoe in a daze for a moment, then reacted and said, Miss Zoe, this photo leakage incident is full of doubts. It won't do either of our sides any good, and I believe that my client is not a blackmailer. Your company probably doesn't have any reliable evidence either, right? Forging evidence, if it's found out, will result in even more severe punishment. Why don't we both take a step back and reach a private settlement? Seeing Robert coming, Zoe's tone immediately softened. Well, that's not impossible to talk about. Zoe hung her head, looking like a little girl, showing no sign of the aggressiveness she had just shown. In the end, this matter ended peacefully. Zoe's side withdrew all the previous accusations against my father and me, claiming that they had found a mole within the company and had already punished and fired that person. Our side accepted the compensation from Zoe's side and stopped pursuing the matter further. Robert, thank you. After coming out, I held Robert's arm and whispered my thanks. Robert had just opened a law firm and was extremely busy. He had taken on several big cases and had been really tied up recently. Even so, upon receiving my distress call, Robert rushed over immediately. Robert squeezed my hand. "Emma, you're my wife now. What's there to thank when a husband helps his wife?" A gentle smile appeared on his usually expressionless face, like ice melting, with a spring breeze. Passing by, hearing Robert's words, I held his arm tightly. I had always known that Zoe and Robert used to be in a relationship, and their feelings were very deep at that time. It was only after Zoe and Robert broke up that I got the chance to enter Robert's heart. I didn't know if Robert would be willing to deal with Zoe, but I still sent him the message. Robert didn't disappoint me. He chose me and stood firmly by my side without hesitation. But now, I stared at Robert's name in my contacts in silence. After a long silence, I tapped on Robert's name. The call was quickly connected. "Emma, what's the matter?" Robert's calm voice came through. I pursed my lips and said, "Robert, you've seen the things Zoe posted on the internet, right?" Robert didn't say anything. My voice couldn't help but get louder. "You were the one who defended my father back then. You know the truth best, don't you? You said you only believe in facts proven by evidence. Now Zoe has started spreading rumors blatantly. Are you just going to sit back and do nothing?" Robert on the other end of the phone remained silent. Cough, cough. I felt a sweet taste in my throat and seemed to cough up some blood again. "Robert, please help me." "Okay, my father is still in the hospital. He can't go through the same ordeal as before, under the torture of illness and psychological pressure," I pleaded with Robert, just like I did back then. But Robert on the other end was like a dead man, with no sound coming back at all. My heart gradually turned cold. "Robert, are you really going to side with Zoe to the end?" I let out a heartbroken scream. "What kind of lawyer are you? For Zoe's sake, are you just going to watch my father and me being condemned by thousands of people? Can't you forget her? What about me? What do our marriage of these years and everything we've been through mean to you?" After the outburst, there were only weak gasps. I could clearly feel that my condition was getting worse. It was approaching faster, as if it couldn't wait to claim my soul. "Emma, I'm sorry." Robert's hoarse voice came from the receiver. Then came the beeping sound of hanging up. Clatter. I let my hand drop weakly, and the phone slipped and fell to the ground, making a crisp crashing sound. In the evening, I returned home in a daze. The car accident case that has been making a big fuss in this city recently has taken a new turn. The so-called victim was actually a premeditated blackmailer. MS. Zoe is the one who has suffered all along. The voice of the news came from the neighbor's TV. When I walked to the front door, I found a big death character sprayed on the door with red paint. Looking at this miserable sight, I gave a bitter smile. Right now, it was just like back then. I pushed the door open and saw a plate of eggs on the table. I walked over and picked up an egg. Each egg had a crooked symbol painted on it with red paint. I felt a mix of emotions. This symbol was a secret unique to our family. It was also a secret between Robert and me. Robert and I had known each other since high school, but this fate had come rather bumpily. When I was in high school, my mother suddenly disappeared one day. The neighbor said that a man came to our house, said a few words to my mother, and then took her away. My father didn't have much of a reaction. He just sipped a little wine at dinner and said to me lightly, "Your mother once had a sweetheart. That sweetheart said he'd come back to marry your mother when he achieved success. But he made her wait for 10 years. Your mother couldn't wait any longer, so she married me." My father's story was short and bleak, but I still heard the deep sense of loss and unwillingness in it. So, actually, I had deep doubts and fears about my mother's departure, and I didn't dare to discuss it further with my father. I didn't want to uncover my father's scars, nor did I want to show my own scars to others. A year passed like this. One day, my father brought home Robert's aunt. "Emma, let me introduce you. This is Robert's aunt." Robert's aunt quickly walked up to me. "You're Emma, right? I came in a hurry and didn't bring a gift. This is for you." With that, Robert's aunt took out a dress from her bag and handed it to me. I didn't say whether I liked it or not. I just lowered my head and said a soft thank you. Watching my father and Robert's aunt chatting happily at the dinner table, I had mixed feelings. I was already in high school at that time, not an ordinary kid. I could tell that my father and Robert's aunt had gotten together. However, what I couldn't understand was why my father could get over it in just this short year. I could always dream of my mother, but my father seemed to have completely forgotten about her. He didn't mention her anymore and didn't seem sad either. Was this right? I didn't know. Later, Robert's aunt came to our house more and more frequently. Once, Robert's aunt brought a boy named Robert. "Emma, this is my son. His name is Robert. He's about the same age as you. You can just call him by his name." I softly called out brother as a courtesy. and Robert just nodded expressionlessly without saying much. But what they didn't know was that at the first sight of Robert, my heart skipped a beat. Robert was really good looking, having inherited Robert's aunt's beauty. But that wasn't what attracted me. It was the sense of maturity in him that didn't match his age. This sense of maturity made me want to rely on him and feel curious about him. As Robert's aunt's interactions with our family became closer, I also started talking to Robert. He wasn't a talkative person. Only when talking about Zoe, the school goddess, would he say a few more words to me. Zoe has decided to take the art college entrance examination, but her academic performance is really poor. She asks me to tutor her every day. It's so troublesome. Although Robert was complaining, the corners of his mouth were clearly turning up. I could tell that Robert liked Zoe very much. I had also seen Zoe and Robert joking around more than once. At that time, I learned to feel lost and regretful, regretting such unreasonable things. Why couldn't I have met Robert earlier? As time went by, I started to feel annoyed when talking to Robert because I didn't want to hear the ambiguous stories of the boy I had a crush on and another girl. Robert seemed to notice my annoyance and gradually returned to the way we first met, unwilling to talk. We were like two lone wolves, wandering around the edge of our territory for a while, looking at each other for a long time, and finally shrinking back to the safe area. Because of Zoe, our relationship went back to the starting point. Unlike us, my father and Robert's aunt's relationship progressed very quickly. Robert's aunt often stayed overnight at our house, and Robert also lived with us all the time. I had once heard my father and Robert's aunt discussing marriage, but for my sake, they decided to hold off for now. They thought that if they got married now, I might not be able to accept it. In fact, I really couldn't accept it, because it was really hard for me to accept another woman taking my mother's place, and I could also tell that Robert couldn't accept it either. When living at our house, Robert seldom talked. The most he said every day was "I'm full." I guessed that Robert, like me, was confused about our parents' choice, but I didn't dare to verify it, nor did I dare to discuss it with Robert. Just like before, I didn't want to uncover my own scars, nor his. Robert and I maintained this strange atmosphere and sense of propriety until the Dragon Boat Festival. That day, Robert's aunt and I were making zonzi together when she suddenly said, "Emma, tell Auntie the truth. Is Robert a difficult kid to get along with?" My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly denied it. No, it's me. I'm too quiet. So Robert doesn't want to talk either." Robert's aunt wiped her hands and gently patted my head. "Silly girl, Robert is my son. How could I not know what he's like?" Robert's aunt sighed. "Since my husband passed away, Robert has seldom talked. I guess he has some thoughts, but he doesn't say them, and I don't want to guess randomly and go against his wishes." At this point, Robert's aunt picked up an egg and put it in front of me, smiling as she said, "Emma, do you know why people throw eggs and zonzi into the river during the Dragon Boat Festival?" I was stunned for a moment and replied, "Because Chu Yuan committed suicide by jumping into the river, and people didn't want the fish to eat his body." It was a story I had heard since primary school. Robert's aunt gently flicked the egg, and it started spinning in front of me. "Emma, that's only part of the reason. People throw zonzi and eggs because they carry people's wishes and the unspoken words. These wishes will give the food different meanings." I nodded as if I understood. Robert's aunt smiled and drew a strange symbol on an egg with red paint and handed it to me. Then she told a story. When Robert was a kid, he was very timid and didn't like to talk. If he wanted something, he was always too shy to tell me directly. Once, he wanted a toy, so he drew the toy on an egg and pretended to accidentally roll it to me at the dinner table. Later, this became a little game between us, mother and son. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard this. I didn't expect that Robert, who always seemed so cold, had such a childish past. Robert's aunt smiled at me and said, "If you have something to say, take this egg to him. He'll understand your feelings." After dinner, my father and Robert's aunt went out for a walk, leaving only Robert and me at home. I took a deep breath, looking at the egg in my hand, and knocked on Robert's door. He opened the door a crack and peeked out. "Ahem, Robert." My cheeks were slightly red as I handed him the egg. "Are you full? Do you want another egg?" Robert's eyes immediately cleared. He looked at me and the egg in my hand, without saying a word. Just when I was getting more and more embarrassed, Robert touched his nose, opened the door wider, and handed me an egg. "Ahem, what a coincidence. You want one too? I'll have one with you." Robert's eyes wandered in the air and finally met mine. Looking at each other, we both smiled. Something melted quietly in our hearts. That night, we talked more and more, getting much closer to each other. After that, this became an unspoken agreement between us. Whenever we had something embarrassing to talk about, we'd pretend to give each other an egg. But now, this plate of eggs on the table seemed like a silent mockery to me. Robert still remembered our agreement. If so, What else couldn't he say? What reason did he have to side with Zoe? Was Zoe really that hard for him to let go? I angrily smashed the plate of eggs on the ground and frantically called Robert. Ahem, Emma. Robert coughed twice on the other end of the phone, sounding like he had a cold. His voice was much hoarser. I held back my sobs and said some heartless words. Robert, stop playing these childish games. There's nothing left to say between us. Robert coughed for a long time on the other end. I continued, Robert, I've talked sense to you and begged you, but you're still firmly on Zoe's side. What's the point of playing these childish tricks now? Are you trying to tell me that you had no choice but to do all those things to my father and me? Robert stopped coughing and finally said, Emma, I'm sorry. Facing his feeble apology, I said viciously. Robert, I don't accept it. I hate you. The thing I regret most is meeting you back then. With that, I hung up. I looked around. On one wall of the house, there were photos of Robert and me traveling over the years. Robert and I had our own jobs, and our fields didn't overlap much. Most of the time, we were apart more than together, so we both cherished the time we spent together during vacations. Every time we arrived at a scenic spot, we would take lots of photos and then spend a whole night picking out the best ones from a pile of pictures. Those were the sweetest memories of ours. But now, this sweetness had been spoiled by Zoe. Like a piece of rat feces in the honey, I impatiently took down the photo of Robert and me on the table. The voice from the TV news pulled me back to reality. The second trial will be held soon. Our station will keep you updated. Looking at the gradually gloomy sky outside the window, I clenched my fists, since Robert insisted on standing by Zoe's side. So be it. If he was truly willing to go all out for Zoe without any bottom line, I would fight him to the end. Thinking of this, I started rummaging through the cupboards at home. The contract for the purchase of photos by Zoe's company was in duplicate, and we also had a copy. However, one day, our house caught fire. A lot of important documents were burned to ashes, leaving only some scraps. Now it seemed that this incident was rather fishy, but I couldn't care less about it. Looking at the scraps I found, I couldn't help sighing. With only these remnants, I wondered if I could compete with Robert and the others. The next day, when I went to take care of my father, I talked to him about this matter. My father scratched his head as if he had thought of something. Emma, do you remember? He said. Not long after the lawsuit ended, I moved to the countryside. I remember I took some odds and ends with me before leaving. Maybe I also took the backup of the previous contract without realizing it. Overjoyed upon hearing this news, I took a taxi to the countryside on the very day, and sure enough, I found the contract from that year in the wooden box where my father kept important items. With this crucial evidence, many of Zoe's rumors would be easily disproven. What surprised me even more was that after the news was broadcast, not only did the irrational curses pour in, but also support. For example, the couple who asked me to take photos back then, they had been married for many years. After seeing my news on TV, they contacted some friends who went to the comic convention together. They all witnessed the violence Zoe's bodyguards inflicted on me and were willing to testify for me. Seeing the evidence and kindness gradually gathering around me, I was full of confidence about the upcoming second trial. Before long, the second trial started as scheduled. It was the first time I saw Robert and Zoe again since we parted in the hospital last time. Zoe still had that pale and feeble makeup, but her lower abdomen was obviously bulging. What surprised me a little was that Robert looked extremely ill. He kept covering his mouth with a tissue and coughing nonstop. I frowned. I didn't expect him to be so sick. After the official start of the trial, my lawyer presented all kinds of evidence I had found one by one. The chain of evidence was interlocked, making it almost impossible to escape with simple sophistry. I already knew all the evidence I could present by heart. I just kept staring at Robert. I wanted to know what he could do for Zoe in such a situation. Would he use his silver tongue to keep arguing, or would he use his connections to fabricate false evidence and false witnesses? However, something unexpected happened to everyone. After our side finished listing all the evidence, Robert stood up and said calmly, "Our side has no counter-arguments." Having no counter-arguments meant admitting that Zoe had committed crimes such as slandering me and causing mental harm. Moreover, the assistant who was pushed out to take the blame last time also refuted her previous statement in court. She said that Zoe had threatened her parents' personal safety and forced her to take the blame. This series of reversals not only failed to get Zoe out of the original charges but also added more crimes to her. The situation on the spot completely dumbfounded Zoe. "What are you all doing?" She tugged at Robert's sleeve. "Robert, aren't you the most powerful lawyer in the world? Hurry up and defend me. Say I'm not guilty. It's all Emma and those bitches who framed me on purpose." The defendant, "Please watch your language." The judge issued a stern warning. but Zoe seemed to be in a daze, just blankly pulling Robert. Robert didn't say anything more. After stating his statement of defeat, he calmly sat back in his chair and withdrew his sleeve from Zoe's grasp. Zoe then turned to look at the assistant, her face gloomy. "You're betraying me now, aren't you afraid of what I said?" "Before, Your Honor, the defendant is making a threat in court," someone said. Seeing the favorable situation, I seized the opportunity to pursue the victory. The judges gavelled a final verdict. Zoe was charged with slander, causing significant adverse effects on society, hit and run, and various other crimes stacked together. By the time she got out of prison, maybe she could only play the role of Granny. Robert, Zoe held hysterically as she was being dragged away. "Didn't you say you'd protect me for a lifetime? Didn't you say you'd never forget me? Why won't you help me get acquitted? Why?" But Robert seemed to hear nothing at all. The whole case ended so quickly and smoothly that I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The lawyer I hired was also very excited. He probably never expected that he could defeat Robert, who was known as invincible in the industry, with so little effort. Outside the court, I met Robert again. Looking closely, I realized that Robert's face was really pale, and his eyes were bloodshot. "Long time no see, Emma," he said in a hoarse voice. "It seems that you look much better than me." Seeing him like this, I felt a little flustered in my heart, but soon I remembered what he had done before. I puffed out my chest and said proudly, "Didn't I tell you, Lawyer Robert? The doctor said I could live to be 100. Robert gave a faint smile. "Really, that would be great." After that, he turned and walked away with unsteady steps. Watching his gradually disappearing back, I felt as if a big stone was pressing on my heart. It was always so stuffy. After Zoe fell from grace, her agency stopped covering up for her and started to promote new artists. So on the internet, those who had grudges against Zoe in the past spoke up again. They were all people who had been hurt by Zoe. It was just that Zoe was the top star of the company back then. So their cases were all suppressed by the company's financial power. This time, Zoe really had to pay a huge price for her arrogance in the first half of her life. After the star filter was completely shattered, the higher her previous popularity was, the greater the backlash she suffered now. In recent days, the gossip about her had become even more explosive. Some people said that Zoe had a wild lifestyle when she was abroad, often going to local parties. Others said that the baby in her belly was an illegitimate child, and she got involved with Robert this time just to find someone to take the blame. These things were rather ambiguous and hard to tell whether they were true or false, but I didn't care about them anymore. My father was finally discharged from the hospital after lying in bed for a long time. He didn't stay in the city for long and finally returned to the countryside. Before leaving, he suddenly asked me, "What happened to that Robert kid later?" I was stunned for a moment and then replied, "I don't know, we haven't seen each other much since then." After the Zoe case ended, Robert seemed to have vanished into thin air. He submitted his resignation letter at the law firm. None of his friends had seen him again. Only the divorce agreement lying on the table at home proved that he had been back. Instead of having a divorce lawsuit with me as he said before, Robert signed the divorce agreement and chose to leave the house empty-handed. Industry insiders were all puzzled by Robert's decision. Robert was always unyielding in court, getting more and more courageous in battles. He didn't seem like someone who would be willing to leave the house empty-handed. Some people rumored that Robert was afraid of me and didn't even dare to have a divorce lawsuit with me. For a while, in the lawyer circle, my fame as an outsider was even greater than Robert's, but these didn't matter anymore. The best news came when the hospital called. "Ms. Emma, congratulations," the voice on the phone said. "An anonymous donor is willing to provide a matching kidney for you. You can get ready to be hospitalized for the operation. This time, our hospital has invited well-known doctors from other places, and the success rate of the operation is very high. Congratulations in advance on your recovery." After seeing my father off, I was going to the hospital to prepare for the operation. My father couldn't help sighing when he knew I no longer cared about Robert. "Alas, actually, I wanted to persuade you back then," he said. "You used to follow Robert around all the time, but that kid kept talking about Zoe. Later, after that Zoe girl went abroad, your relationship with him somehow got better, and I didn't bother about it anymore. Now it seems that your Robert's aunt was really prescient." The crowds were bustling around me. Suddenly, I had an impulse. "Dad, let me take a photo of you here." Moments later, I took a photo of my father turning around and looking back with the crowds as the background. After sending my father to the car, I was walking through the crowds while playing with my phone. When I accidentally looked up, I caught a glimpse of a pale face in the crowd. It only lasted for an instant, but it looked very familiar. It seemed to be Robert, but after I walked out of the crowd, I couldn't find him anymore. Robert, just like his name, had completely left my world. I bought an egg casually in the restaurant at the waiting hall, after eating the egg white. Since I didn't like the yolk, I casually handed it to the side. It was only in the next second that I realized that the boy in my memory would never appear again. Extra Robert, my name is Robert. Today, when I came back from school, my mother told me with tears in her eyes that my father had passed away. For a moment, I didn't react. I just said oh and then turned into the study. In the following several days, I didn't feel anything special. My father was gone. But my life had to go on until one day, after finishing my homework, I picked up my badminton racket and, as usual, called out to my father in the living room. In the past, my father, who was watching the news in the living room, would respond and go downstairs to play badminton with me. But this time, the living room was silent, with no response at all. It was also this time that I shed tears for my father's passing for the first time. I realized for the first time that the greatest sorrow isn't when you learn that someone has left. It's when you've grown accustomed to someone's presence and are then forced to live without them. This feeling was almost driving me crazy. After becoming aware of this sorrow, my already sparse words grew even fewer. This kind of life lasted for a year, until one day, I suddenly noticed that my mother seemed to be in a better mood. That day, she told me nervously that she wanted to take me to someone else's home as guests. She took me to Uncle Emma's place. Uncle Emma was very enthusiastic. He not only cooked a big table of dishes for us but also gave me a pair of expensive sneakers. As a high school student, I wasn't an ignorant kid. I immediately realized that my mother and Uncle Emma were dating. Logically speaking, I should have been happy for my mother. After my father left, my mother had to support the family alone to take care of me. Even though she had unspeakable sadness in her heart, she had no way to release it. Now that she could find a second person who loved her, it was a lucky thing for her. However, I got stuck on this issue, because I couldn't understand why. In just a short year, my mother could walk out of the shadow. She seldom mentioned my father anymore and no longer had that faint melancholy on her face. But was this reasonable? I wasn't sure. Adolescents always overthink things yet can't figure much out, so it's easy to fall into a state of conflict and entanglement. I was no exception. My rational side told me to support my mother's choice, while my emotional side told me that I couldn't forget my father easily. So, unintentionally, I distanced myself from and even showed some hostility towards Uncle Emma. Even though he was very nice to me, since I couldn't vent my emotions at home, I had to direct them elsewhere. So, I started dating Zoe at school. Meeting Zoe was an accident at first. Her grades were very poor at that time. Often, she would make a lot of mistakes even in the most basic homework assigned by the teacher. Finally, one day, after seeing her make basic mistakes again, I couldn't help but teach her a lesson. After listening to my teaching, Zoe looked at me worshipfully and said, "Wow, classmate Robert, you're so amazing. No wonder you're always among the top 3 in every exam. Can you teach me more in the future?" Zoe had a delicate appearance and a sweet voice. She was the recognized school goddess. Her admiration made me feel good. From then on, she always asked me to tutor her in her studies, and I was content with this feeling of being worshipped. So I never refused her requests. As time passed, we confirmed our relationship. Later, my mother took me to Uncle Emma's home more and more frequently. During this process, I also met Uncle Emma's daughter, Emma. Different from my family, Emma's mother eloped with someone. At that time, I thought that Emma was probably even more conflicted than I was. In fact, it was true. Emma only maintained basic politeness towards my mother and me, keeping a delicate sense of distance. When Uncle Emma asked her to greet me, she always looked timid. I knew what kind of temper I had and could understand that Emma was probably frightened by my coldness, but actually, I didn't have the intention to hurt or deliberately be hostile to anyone. I was just very conflicted and didn't want to expose my scars to others, so I could only put on a cold face, pretending that the world had nothing to do with me. Later, the relationship between my mother and Uncle Emma advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the point of almost getting married. I was also forced to live under the same roof as Emma. Uncle Emma and my mother had the intention to get married, but considering the feelings of me and Emma, they didn't do it for a long time. They were waiting for me and Emma to grow up and fly out of the nest, so that they could enjoy their own peace and happiness, but they probably never expected that they wouldn't live to see that day. Distance creates beauty. After having to interact every day, the relationship between me and Emma actually eased a bit. She was actually a Very proactive girl, always liking to talk to me about all kinds of things. I wasn't good at chatting. Most of the time, I was reading alone, ignorant of all the gossip or rumors in the school or even the classroom. What I could talk about with Emma was only my daily experiences, such as the process of tutoring Zoe. Whenever Emma and I chatted, I would tell her every detail of getting along with Zoe. I didn't mean to show off or fob her off. I just simply thought that sometimes Zoe's silly mistakes were very funny, so I used them as conversation topics. But as time went by, I realized something was wrong. Every time I mentioned Zoe, Emma's expression would become stiff, and sometimes it would even look unpleasant. I suddenly realized that it might not be appropriate to talk about another girl with a girl, so, from that day on, I started to talk less again. As a result, Emma also talked much less. Our relationship advanced in this ebb and flow rhythm towards the future. Another Dragon Boat Festival arrived. After dinner, looking at the eggs on the desk that I picked up casually, I suddenly remembered a past event. When I was a kid, I was always afraid of my father's strictness. Whenever I wanted to suggest buying something to my parents, I was extremely nervous. As time passed, I came up with a seemingly clever method. I drew the things I wanted on an egg and then pretended to accidentally roll it out during breakfast. Maybe after seeing it, my mother could understand what I meant and buy the things I wanted for me. In fact, my mother did understand, but she never said it explicitly. This thing became a tacit understanding between me and my mother. Using eggs to convey heartfelt words became a strange habit, or rather, a custom, between us. Thinking of this, I suddenly had another clever idea. Since the Dragon Boat Festival was coming soon, I could use the pretext of giving eggs to start a conversation with Emma and talk more. After all, if my mother really married Uncle Emma in the future, Emma would be my stepsister. Just then, Emma's voice came from outside the door. I opened the door curiously and saw Emma holding an egg, blushing as she asked me if I wanted to eat it. At that moment, I seemed to see myself as a child. When I saw the expression on Emma's face, I already understood that eating the egg was just a pretense. Emma just wanted to talk to me more from the heart, so I also took out my own egg. After seeing each other's rather childish actions, Emma and I looked at each other and smiled. That night, we sat side by side on the balcony and talked a lot. To my great surprise, Emma and I had an astonishing degree of similarity when it came to the issue of our parents. In our hearts, we both hoped that our parents could find happiness again, but we were also afraid of it. The feeling of finding someone like-minded diluted this fear. We talked more and more, and the topics got deeper and deeper. As the sky gradually darkened, we gradually ran out of things to say. Suddenly, Emma held up the egg in her hand, somewhat proudly saying, "Look, my egg is darker, and both ends are sharper, which means it's harder." "So what does that represent?" I asked with a smile. Emma said arrogantly, "Robert's aunt told me that your family always likes to use eggs to represent one's feelings. My egg is harder, which means I have heavier concerns." This kind of analogy seemed illogical and too childish for adults, but for high school students, it was just right. I held up my own egg, wanting to compete with Emma's, so a good heart-to-heart talk finally turned into two half-grown kids smashing eggs on the balcony. In the end, I lost. The egg in my hand was cracked by Emma's, while hers was intact. Emma proudly announced her victory, and I also smiled dotingly. Perhaps, Emma really did have more things on her mind. Tragedy never knocks before it arrives. After the college entrance examination, Emma and I went to the same university, while Zoe went to another one. One day, Uncle Emma called me with a choked voice. "Robert, I have something to tell you. Your mother had a car accident this morning. By the time she was sent to the hospital, she was already..." Uncle Emma couldn't go on, and I couldn't bear to listen anymore. My mother and Uncle Emma never got to the day of their wedding. Uncle Emma could only attend my mother's funeral as her boyfriend. On the same day, Zoe called to break up with me. "I'm sorry, Robert, although you send me money every month and spend time coming to see me every month, we should end it. Do you remember the man who was chasing me in high school? He said he had a way to send me abroad. The domestic environment is too complicated and dirty. It's not suitable for me. I pursue freedom, so, I'm sorry, let's break up." I remembered a sentence I read in a comic. To destroy a person, only one extremely bad day is needed. The loss of my mother and Zoe on the same day was the worst day in my life. Without a doubt, that night I avoided everyone who was looking for me and drank alone in a dirty corner. Empty bottles rolled all over the floor, but I didn't care at all. I just kept pouring white and yellow liquids into my mouth, different kinds of alcohol mixed in my stomach, as if they had come to life, trying to break through my stomach, but I didn't care. I even thought it was okay. Robert, at this moment, I vaguely saw Emma. With tears all over her face, come to find me, she hugged me tightly and comforted me. With a trembling voice, Robert, I've heard from my dad, don't be sad, drunk and numbed by alcohol. I smiled bitterly in Emma's arms. Emma, I have nothing left, I have nothing at all, from now on, I have no family in this world. Hearing this, Emma tightened her arms around me. No, Robert, you still have me. My memory of that night was very chaotic, but I clearly remembered that our relationship had a breakthrough from the ambiguous stage. I lost Zoe, but I got Emma, who was even more worthy of cherishing. In the following days, with Emma's meticulous care, life passed smoothly. We graduated successfully and had our own careers. Emma traveled around with a camera, capturing happy moments for everyone, and I became a lawyer and opened my own law firm. Years of feelings led us to the marriage hall naturally. I thought that our future life would be so plain and happy, until God sent me the first trial. I remember that day. Emma called me with a sobbing, anxious voice. Robert, are you free now? My father is in trouble. I immediately put aside the important case in my hand and rushed to the scene. The first thing I saw was Zoe, who had become much more mature after years of separation. After understanding the whole story, I tried my best to reach a settlement. After seeing me, Zoe gave up the entanglement and accepted my proposal for reconciliation. However, after dealing with everything, Zoe invited me to a hotel alone. Robert, long time no see. Zoe smoked and smiled charmingly. She had changed so much that I could hardly match her with the person in my memory. I've never been in a relationship or had an ambiguous relationship with anyone these years abroad, because I've never forgotten you, and I can't forget those beautiful memories we had together. As she said this, Zoe put her hand on mine. I withdrew my hand and said lightly, Miss Zoe, please behave yourself. I'm married now. Seeing the wedding ring on my hand, Zoe's expression immediately became downcast. Yes, I know, I'm sorry, I came back too late. Tears gradually welled up in Zoe's eyes. But, Robert, do you know, the foreign environment was also very difficult. Every time I could hardly move forward, it was your face that came to my mind. It was because I wanted to come back to see you that I could make it to this day. As she said this, Zoe drank up the red wine in her glass. Looking at her flushed face after drinking, I frowned and held her hand. If you can't drink, don't. Zoe shook off my hand and said stubbornly, don't care about me. You're already married. Why do you still care about me? As she said this, she filled another glass and was about to drink it. I snatched the wine glass away. I don't know how much wine we drank that night. All I know is that the next day, Zoe and I were lying in bed together. This was the thing I regretted most. Zoe chose to leave me when I was most sad, while Emma saved me at that time. How could I do something sorry to Emma because of Zoe? But Zoe told our past over and over again, those really beautiful memories. I gradually got lost in it and once again regarded Zoe as the little girl who always asked me questions in my memory. Then I calmly walked further and further down the wrong path. When Zoe confronted Emma again, I was very conflicted. I knew I was sorry to Emma, but I didn't want to hurt Zoe again, especially when Zoe claimed that she was already pregnant with my child. That was my unborn family member, and also my Achilles heel. Perhaps to punish my indecision, when I accompanied Zoe for a physical examination, she suddenly suggested that I also have a checkup. I couldn't refuse her, so I agreed. The result shocked me. Mr. Robert, I'm sorry to inform you, we found some diseased cells in your blood. If you can't get a brand new kidney transplant, these cells may evolve into other incurable diseases. Fortunately, we've already found a matching kidney source for you. After it's transferred to our hospital, we can perform the operation on you. I didn't listen to much of what the doctor said because the scene just now kept replaying in my mind. Just now, Zoe was provoking Emma again, and Emma was clutching a crumpled examination sheet in her hand. If it was good news or unimportant things, there was no need to crumple the sheet like this. So, after Emma left, I fished the discarded examination sheet out of the trash can and learned the truth that Emma was terminally ill. After learning that Emma was terminally ill, my heart was once again consumed by fear. I remembered my father and mother who left me suddenly back then. I was afraid that one day Uncle Emma would call me suddenly and tell me that Emma had unfortunately died of the disease. The scene of Emma hugging me to comfort me when I was in despair kept emerging in my mind. It was only then that I realized how wrong I had been. For the sake of chasing the Zoe who only existed in my memory, I had actually given up Emma, who had always been good to me. Why did I become like this? However, things that followed were even more unexpected. One day, after I finished handling the matters at hand, a friend I hadn't seen for years came to find me. He was a classmate who studied law with me. After graduation, I stayed in China while he developed abroad. When old friends met, small talk was inevitable, so we booked a hotel and talked while eating. At the dinner table, my friend talked about my affairs. Robert, I heard that you're having a lawsuit with Emma and the others because of Zoe. I didn't expect my friend to bring up this matter, so I could only nod awkwardly. Yes, you know, Zoe was my girlfriend in high school. We only broke up because she wanted to go abroad. Hearing my words, my friend's expression suddenly became a bit strange and conflicted. Seeing his expression, I had a bad premonition. What's wrong? Why did you suddenly bring up Zoe? My friend coughed gently and stammered. Robert, I'm not sure if I should tell you this. Let me make it clear first. I've only heard about these things. The more he hesitated, the more curious I was. Just say it. There's nothing we can't talk about between us. After getting my assurance, my friend continued, you know, I've been working hard abroad these years, and I've heard a lot about Zoe. She even asked me to help her with several lawsuits. People say that Zoe is very loose. She never refuses anyone, no matter how many come at once, and it's said that Zoe got to where she is today all by some improper means. My friend gave me a meaningful look. The paparazzi once took pictures of her going to the hospital for an abortion operation. I heard that she might not be able to bear another abortion because she's had too many, so she gave up this time. My friend's words shocked me. The thoughts I had for Zoe shattered bit by bit. That night, I went to the hospital to visit Zoe on purpose. She had always maintained that victim-like makeup and would occasionally live stream, crying to the netizens that Emma had bullied her again. Seeing me coming, Zoe immediately turned off the live stream and greeted me with a big smile. Robert, why are you here? Did you miss me? Hee hee. I sat by her bedside and, after a long silence, said, Zoe, a foreign friend of mine came to see me today. You should know him. He also helped you with several lawsuits. At noon today, he told me a lot of things about you. Looking at Zoe's increasingly evasive eyes, I said slowly, Zoe, I hope you can tell me if these things are true. Zoe was silent for a long time before she started wiping away her tears. I quickly handed her the tissue box next to me. However, Zoe cried even harder and slapped the tissue away. Robert, what do you mean? She said. Do you think it was easy for me to struggle alone abroad? People there always look down on people like me. If I didn't pay a high enough price, I'd always be wallowing at the bottom. But I don't care about any of that. As long as I can climb to the top and come back to see you with achievements, I don't care about anything. But what about you? You actually believe those people's nonsense. Now, do you also want to look down on me like the others? Fine, then go away. Just pretend we've never met. As she spoke, Zoe pounded her stomach like a madwoman. I quickly grabbed her hands, fearing that she might do something life-threatening. After I held her down, Zoe kept crying in my arms, saying that she did all this for me. I gently patted her on the shoulder, but in my heart, I had already made a decision. I only believed in results deduced from evidence, and now the evidence told me that Zoe was lying. She was truly no longer the person I remembered. So, in court, facing Emma's flawless chain of evidence, I gracefully admitted my defeat. It was not just a failure in the lawsuit, but also in other aspects. After walking out of the courtroom, I couldn't help covering my mouth with a tissue, coughing up some blood. The spread of my illness was much faster than what the doctor and I had estimated. When Emma called me before, I coughed so hard that I could barely speak. To keep it from Emma, I had to press the receiver hard to suppress the cough. I had done something wrong to Emma, so I didn't deserve her pity. After casually throwing the blood-stained tissue into the trash can, I dialed Dr. Lee's number. Hello, is that Dr. Lee? Didn't you say you'd found a healthy kidney for me before? How did the matching result go after I asked you to do it again? After a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, Dr. Lee told me the result. Mr. Robert, I've done as you asked. The matching result shows that this kidney also matches your wife's physique. It can be transplanted into her body completely. Her condition is very similar to yours. After the transplant operation, the probability of a full recovery is very high. It was pretty much as I had planned. I nodded and instructed, in that case, do as I say, donate this kidney to Emma. Remember to hide my information and handle it as an anonymous volunteer. Dr. Lee couldn't help asking, forgive me for being nosy, Mr. Robert, if you give this opportunity to your wife, what about your illness? I smiled and shook my head. It doesn't matter anymore. And Dr. Lee, you just said something wrong. I'm no longer Emma's husband. With that, I hung up the phone later. I heard that Emma was going to send her father back to the countryside, so I followed them to the station. Through the crowds, I saw Emma holding a camera, looking delighted. She had always been like this, getting excited about taking good photos. Her face was still very pale, but as long as she had the operation, everything would be fine. My indecision had wasted Emma's time and youth, and for a moment, I even indulged myself and hurt her, so I gave her this hope of life as compensation. Emma, I hope you'll be happy. Watching her being pushed forward by the crowds, I turned and walked towards another exit of the station. This time, I was truly leaving.